The room fell silent so suddenly that even the crystal chandeliers seemed to stop shimmering. Every conversation died the moment Lieutenant Commander Bryce Calloway stepped in front of a quiet black man carrying a silver serving tray. Dressed in an immaculate Navy SEAL dress uniform, Bryce smirked before the crowd and declared, "You're here to serve, not speak." Laughter echoed across the grand ballroom while the man simply lowered his eyes, refusing to answer. No one noticed the four decorated generals who had just entered through the far doors, or the look of shock spreading across their faces. Within minutes, the same room that mocked one man would witness a moment no one would ever forget. Before we begin this unforgettable story, please take a second to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who believes kindness always matters, and subscribe to Heartline Stories if you believe every person deserves respect, dignity, and a second chance. Your support helps us bring more inspiring stories to life. It was a bright spring afternoon in Washington, D.C., where golden sunlight poured through the tall windows of the historic military ballroom. The annual Veterans Leadership Charity Gala welcomed decorated officers, business leaders, politicians, and families from across the country. Every table glittered with polished silverware, fresh white roses, and crystal glasses. Uniforms covered with medals reflected the afternoon light, creating a picture of honor and prestige. Yet beneath the elegance, invisible lines divided those who wore uniforms from those hired to serve the guests. Among the catering staff moved a calm and respectful man named Malcolm Rivers. At 43, Malcolm had learned long ago that dignity was something no one could hand to you. They could only try to take it away. He balanced trays with practiced precision, greeted guests with quiet politeness, and never complained. Few people knew that after losing his wife to cancer 7 years earlier, Malcolm had raised his 12-year-old daughter, Amara, entirely on his own. Every morning he prepared her breakfast, helped with homework before school, and worked multiple jobs to make sure she never felt the emptiness left behind by tragedy. Many assumed Malcolm had always worked in hospitality. They saw only the pressed black uniform and white gloves. They never imagined the framed medals resting quietly in a drawer at home or the folded American flag beside a faded photograph of younger soldiers smiling in desert camouflage. Malcolm rarely spoke about his past because he believed true service never demanded applause. Lieutenant Commander Bryce Calloway represented everything people admired on the surface. Handsome, athletic, charismatic, and confident, he was one of the Navy's fastest-rising SEAL officers. Newspapers praised his leadership, magazines featured his achievements, and younger officers wanted to become exactly like him. Success had arrived early, and with it came something more dangerous than failure, pride. Bryce had slowly begun believing that rank alone determined a person's value. When Malcolm accidentally brushed Bryce's shoulder while avoiding another waiter, a single drop of sparkling water landed near Bryce's polished shoe. It was harmless, but Bryce reacted as though his honor had been attacked. The room turned toward the scene as Bryce raised his voice loudly enough for nearby tables to hear. He reminded Malcolm that people in uniforms earned the right to speak while servers existed only to follow orders. His words sliced through the elegant hall like cold steel. Malcolm quietly apologized and reached for a napkin. He could have defended himself. He could have revealed everything. Instead, he simply continued doing his work. Years of hardship had taught him that real strength often looked like silence. Across the ballroom, 4 senior generals had just arrived. General Harrison Whitmore, General Victor Gaines, General Samuel Ortiz, and General Leonard Brooks had come directly from a leadership conference honoring veterans whose classified missions had remained hidden for decades. As they walked through the crowd, General Whitmore suddenly froze. His eyes locked onto Malcolm. Without hesitation, the 4 generals changed direction. Guests whispered in confusion as the nation's highest-ranking officers ignored politicians, celebrities, and wealthy donors. They walked straight toward the quiet server everyone else had overlooked. Bryce noticed them approaching and proudly prepared to salute first, assuming they had come to congratulate him. Instead, General Whitmore stepped past Bryce without even slowing down. The ballroom became perfectly silent. Standing before Malcolm, General Whitmore placed his hand sharply against his forehead. One after another, the other 3 generals followed. For flawless military salutes. Not to the decorated SEAL officer. To the man holding the serving tray. Shock spread through the ballroom. Cameras stopped flashing. Conversations disappeared. Even the musicians lowered their instruments. General Whitmore smiled warmly before gently taking the tray from Malcolm's hands. He spoke with deep respect, explaining that everyone present deserved to know they were standing before Master Chief Malcolm Rivers, one of the most courageous special operations leaders he had ever known. Decades earlier, Malcolm had volunteered for missions so dangerous that many remained classified even today. On one operation overseas, Malcolm had stayed behind alone to rescue wounded teammates after enemy forces surrounded their position. His courage saved 23 American lives, including the lives of 2 of the generals now standing before him. Because the mission remained secret, Malcolm never received public recognition. He accepted the silence without bitterness, believing that bringing soldiers home alive mattered far more than medals or applause. Years later, after leaving military service, Malcolm chose a different kind of mission. Raising his daughter. Serving his community. Helping veterans rebuild their lives. Working honest jobs without ever asking for special treatment. General Ortiz explained that Malcolm had quietly donated thousands of volunteer hours mentoring struggling veterans suffering from trauma and homelessness. General Brooks added that Malcolm personally funded scholarships for children of fallen service members, despite working long hours himself. Every accomplishment had remained hidden because Malcolm believed kindness lost its meaning when performed for attention. Bryce stood motionless. His confident posture collapsed beneath the unbearable weight of realization. Everything he thought defined greatness, rank, recognition, applause, suddenly looked painfully small beside the humble man he had publicly humiliated. With every guest watching, Bryce slowly stepped forward. His face showed genuine regret rather than embarrassment. He admitted he had judged a man by clothing instead of character. He confessed that his own uniform had become more important to him than the values it represented. Then, standing before Malcolm, Bryce offered a sincere apology. Malcolm looked into the young officer's eyes for a long moment. Then he smiled. He accepted the apology without anger because he understood that forgiveness often teaches lessons pride never can. The generals nodded with quiet approval. That afternoon, the charity gala raised more money than anyone expected, not because of speeches or ceremonies, but because hundreds of guests had witnessed humility stronger than power and respect greater than status. Later that evening, Malcolm returned home where Amara rushed into his arms after school, excited to tell him about earning the highest score on her science project. Malcolm listened with the same full attention he had always given her. He never mentioned the applause, the generals, or the standing ovation that followed. To him, being her father remained the greatest honor of his life. Months later, Bryce began volunteering beside Malcolm at local veterans programs. The 2 men, once separated by pride, became partners in serving others. Bryce often told younger officers that leadership was never measured by how many people saluted you but by how many people felt respected because of you. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with your friends and family, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, and subscribe to Heartline Stories for more inspiring stories that remind us humanity is always stronger than prejudice. Special request. Comment below with, "Respect is earned through character, not appearance." As the sun set over Washington that unforgettable day, one lesson remained brighter than every medal in the room: uniforms may command attention, titles may earn recognition, but true greatness is revealed by humility, compassion, and the quiet courage to serve others without expecting anything in return. And sometimes, the strongest salute is the one given not to rank, but to a life lived with honor.